Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. Larry, I'm going to come down there.
Okay.
Keep you on your toes, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to depart from the gospel text today just to talk about, since it's Father's Day, talk about fatherhood, what that means. It's an important concept in the scriptures. The idea we call God Father, we have the prayer Our Father, so it's important to think about it. I find it kind of ironic that in today's reading, I don't know if you picked up on this, I just did as I was reading it to you just now. It's Father's Day, and we read a story about how two sons just ditched their father who was working by the edge of the sea and went off and followed some guy who called them. I thought that was kind of funny. Happy Father's Day, Zebedee. We're out of here. Fatherhood comes up a lot. We all have this, fathers and mothers, this relationship, it's very deep within us. It's visceral, and we all have a very deep, natural, instinctual need to have a father and a mother and to have those relationships with them. Just from a biological sense, right, it's probably like, it's about survival, right? You have those relationships, and you live and you thrive. But I think it's also even deeper than that. I think it's a very deep spiritual need to have that. Those who have had a good father or mother are very grateful for it. But I think perhaps those who have not had it, who have been robbed of it in some way, appreciate that person or appreciate what fathers are, perhaps more so. Even if maybe they had a bad father, right? See, sometimes you have to lose something or not have something for you to really recognize that that thing is of value in some significant way. And any of us who have experienced that loss or not had that know that. And we know that people who have not had a good father or even a mother in their life, it can be detrimental to them. And oftentimes, someone else will step up, right, and fulfill that fatherly role, an uncle or a grandfather or something for somebody. And there's a reason for that, And if we haven't had that, sometimes we end up seeking that out in some way, right? Maybe a mentor of some kind, that person can be that for us. Because fathers represent someone who's strong in our life, someone who protects us, someone who teaches us and guides us. Someone that we can sort of take refuge in. And fathers and mothers really do have different, they will often have different sort of roles or characteristics that will develop. And obviously that's different for different families and people, that varies. But just as an example, like when we're putting the kids to bed, I'm usually bad at it because, because I end up riling the kids up, right? Dad's the fun one, right? This always happens, and I don't even mean to do it oftentimes. It's just the kids sort of they know that they can get a little crazy with Dad, Dad's both very fun and also very scary, right? At the same time, right? So there's these qualities that are just, universal and beautiful about that. And I don't think we ever get over this dynamic of fatherhood in our lives, right? We never sort of can get the voice of our father or even the voice of our mother out of our head when we're doing something, right? And you'll see people, the kid will be 60 and the mother will be like 85, and somehow the 60-year-old will get close. Sometimes this 6-year-old will act like a child to this mother. Somehow this woman or this father or mother can make this 60-year-old act like a kid again, or feel like a kid again, because they're like, wait, why am I feeling guilty? Why do I feel like I have to do everything this person says, And so there's things I don't think change or go away. Those relationships are permanent, and they really become indelible of who we are. They leave that mark. And so when we think of God, we talk about God as being our Father. And I think fathers and mothers, especially fatherhood, is put into our lives to give us an image or an idea of what our relationship with God is like. right? God uses the relationship of Father to teach us about who He is a little bit, right? I mean, God is, I mean, He's mysterious, right? Like, how can you begin to have a relationship with someone who's infinite, right? I mean, trying to get your head around that seems kind of hard. And yet God gives us this image of Father as a way to begin to sort of grasp at God. And in the Our Father, what Jesus does is significant, right? Because in the Old Testament, right, God is, you know, this terrible thing up on a mountain where the earth is quaking, and only Moses can go and come down, and things like that, right? There's this incredible distance between God, right? In the temple, there's the curtain, right? And when Jesus is crucified on the cross, what happens to the curtain in the Jewish temple? It gets rent in two, right? And this becomes a symbol of tearing down this wall. And what prayer does Jesus give that is scandalous, that we don't realize is scandalous, to the apostles? He only gives one prayer to say in the whole Gospels. The Our Father, right? And that word for Father in Aramaic is Abba, okay? And that word it's not like Abba, it's like Daddy, okay? Baba, right? Like in different languages they have the same thing. It's the first sort of sounds a kid can make. And so, I mean, literally, if you literally translated it, it'd be our Daddy who is in heaven, right? And so it's the informal, intimate form of the word Father. Whereas Father for us is sort of like the formal thing, you know? Like, you usually don't call your dad Father, right? You call him Dad or something like that. So this gives us a sense of how intimate Jesus envisions this relationship with God, right? Not just your Father, but He's your Dad. He's that name that you only call Him in private, right? And so that's the kind of relationship that you can have with God. And there's something deeply, deeply satisfying about that. Because I think in our nature, we desire that perfect Father, right? That perfect Father, right? In all the ways that our Father was screwed up, and even though He was great, right? In all the ways that He fell short as a Father, right? There is this desire in us for like the perfect father, right? Or the perfect mother. And only God fulfills that, right? And all the rest of us who are fathers or godfathers or grandfathers or surrogate fathers, we sort of just fill in the gap, right? We're sort of just representatives, right? For what the perfect fatherhood is, which is God who fulfills that. And there is always this sort of like God-shaped hole in our hearts that is never fully satisfied with anything less than God, right? There's that great quote from St. Augustine that says, you know, my heart is restless until it finds its rest in you. And I think this is true with fatherhood. There is this deep, deep desire within us of to have that perfect father, right? That just satisfies and gives us a sense of peace. And that's found in part in our earthly fathers, and it's found in full with our Father in heaven. And so I want to leave you with these two thoughts. And one is that anybody can be a father to somebody else. And maybe that's what I'll just focus on that, and that idea. Is that anybody can be a father. That fatherhood is not just about a blood relationship between two people, right? Fatherhood isn't just like, oh, you have my DNA or something like that, right? That's not ultimately what it's about. Fatherhood is about a relationship between two people, and a dynamic. And so anybody can have a father-son or father-daughter relationship, and that happens all the time. And so I think we should be open to that, right? Of maybe there's people in our lives that we need to be, right, a father to in some way. And the same thing I think goes with motherhood as well. These are opportunities. And the church, one of the things that Jesus does in the Gospels is He sort of tears down, He starts to form the basis of relationships, not on blood, right, but on a spiritual basis. He does this by saying, right, like, it's not just for the Jews, right? It's not just like, oh, if you have Jewish blood in you, you get to have a special relationship with God, right? No, He says everybody does, right? And with Jesus, He says, he who loves what? He who loves father or mother more than me is unworthy of me. Which sounds like a really hard saying, like He's saying family doesn't matter. But what He's saying is, what really matters is the love you have for people, right? It's not just about the blood and how we're related. It's about how we actually love each other. And so we can create families anywhere we want. We can create love and friendships anywhere we want. And it's about our choices, and it's about our love and our commitment to each other that creates those families. And that's what the church is. The church is a family based not on blood, but on love and explicit commitment to one another. And so it's in this context that we can learn to imitate God, right? And maybe be that fatherly figure to somebody who needs that in some way. And that's a challenge for us, because that means we have to rise to the virtue that's required of us to be what someone else needs us to be. And at the same time, we can give thanks to God for all those people in our lives who have been that fatherly figure to us, who have given us a glimpse into who God is. By being a father to us, by being our godfather, by being our grandfather, by being that male role model in some way for us. And that is a wonderful blessing. And if you've been given the blessing of having a good father or having good fatherly figures, give thanks to God for them. And if you haven't, you always have God himself who's there for you. When other people let you down, when other people aren't enough, you can always turn and find refuge in God, who's perfect and full. And that's the good news of the gospel. Glory to Jesus Christ.